Greetings everybody, Sage Tower Games here, and today I'm bringing you guys a video talking about Marvel Champions and specifically talking about my opinion on the tier list for the heroes. Now this is as of the latest release, which was Quicksilver. I will not be reviewing Scarlet Witch as she hasn't officially been released in the US as of this video. So I will talk about everybody else in the meantime. Now I'm going to use an S, A, B, C, F tier. To me, S being the best of the best, the kind of characters that can break the game, they can single-handedly dominate and run the game on themselves, almost to a broken degree. And F are the characters that in my opinion struggle the most and are really hard to kind of play compared to the other characters. They almost have to play really hard just to get to those other characters' level. So, with that, let us hop in and begin. So I'm going to start off with the core set, the 5 heroes that begin the game. And the first one I'm going to talk about is everyone's favorite friendly neighborhood spider, Spider-Man. And I am going to bring Spider-Man, I'm giving him a B overall. And the reason for this, I know some people rate Spider-Man really high. They give Spider-Man probably almost like one of the best characters in the game. And he can be. He does have some really good cards in his kit. Backflip, Enhanced Spider Sense, Aunt May, which is probably one of the best cards in the game, arguably. It's definitely up there for being how good it is. My problem with Spider-Man, in almost every game that I've played as Spider-Man, Spider-Man's kit doesn't lend itself much to thwart removal. Unless you're playing like Justice, Spider-Man can't really do much with scheming, with thwarting. He has Spider Tracer that can reduce some of the threat on the board, but outside of that, he doesn't really have anything else to deal with threat. Black Cat is really going to be attacking, not really thwarting. Spider-Man's thwart on his actual card is only a 1, which is pretty low. He does have 2 attack, 3 defense, so he's really good at defending. And even when you combine that with backflip and the other cards, Spider-Man protection is a really popular pick of a playstyle to play as. But I feel like the fact that he doesn't really have a good thwarting game, it kind of puts him at a bit of a disadvantage. His other disadvantage, in my opinion, is back when the game first came out, Swinging Web Kick was a really good card. 3 resource for 8 damage was pretty solid, and it was a good deal. These days, we're seeing a lot more you can do with different costs, and the 3 for 8 kind of become a standard. But now so many cats can do things a lot better. So in my opinion, Spider-Man, I'm going to put him at a B. Next one we're going to talk about is She-Hulk. Now She-Hulk, I like She-Hulk. I like her design as a character. I like what they try to do with She-Hulk. In my opinion, however, she has to go to a C class. And the reason for this is being a few things. 1, in most heroes, you have 6, your hand size of 6 in your alter ego form, 5 in your hero form. She-Hulk's hand size is a 4. So right away, she's at a 1 card disadvantage, which puts her behind. Her main card engine effect is Focus Rage to draw those cards to kind of catch up with other players. And she does have the Gamma Slam that can do potentially, up to 14 points of damage if you really risk it. And she has a lot of good cards to make her attacks powerful. But the fact that she has a lot of her cards are like 3 cost, 4 cost, and she only has a 4 hand size puts her at this weird place where you have to really play perfectly to get her to match up with any of the other heroes. She can work. She has good tools. Her attack is really good. Her hero power is good for that free damage. Even in her alter ego form, that one objection to remove one scheme is always good, and obviously you can play around with split personality. She has cards that make her work, and that's why I squeak her a little bit above an F, in that she's probably more playable than some of those characters that you might see down in the red tier. But I wouldn't say by much. Like, you can put She-Hulk, but you're gonna know you're gonna be a little bit behind the curve if you play as She-Hulk. Next, I'm gonna bring out the one, the only Iron Man. Now, Iron Man is obviously he's a very popular character in the Marvel universe. So obviously you would hope his kit is really good. In my opinion, Iron Man is so good. He's actually breaking my tier list apparently. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that. I was talking about Iron Man. He was so powerful, he literally broke the webpage. And that's because I'm putting Iron Man as an S tier, one of the best characters in the game. Now, the only downside to Iron Man really is the fact that Iron Man needs time to get set up. The whole play style as Iron Man is you got to play as many of your Iron suit pieces as you can, and then you eventually, once you have the suit built, you just flip over into Iron Man and you just pretty much stay as Iron Man for the rest of the game, using your suit powers combined with repulsor blasts and supersonic punches to just pummel the villain to death. Where you're doing 8 damage a card, 9 damage a card, just swinging, just doing tons of damage. He can also remove thwart from multiple side schemes. He has power gauntlets to deal with minions. He himself has a decent thwart. I believe it's a 2 on his card. And other great cards like Piper Potts, giving you free resources. He can really do it all, to be being perfectly honest. The one main issue is that he is really weak at the beginning until you have him set up. Once you build Tony up, he's pretty much unstoppable, and he can handle anything that you throw at him. And if you build his deck around to kind of, buff up his weaknesses, even War Machine for a bit of AoE damage, like, you have enough there that you can handle basically anything. Arc Reactor to ready so you can thwart twice if you need to. So there's so many different ways you can handle both thwarting, both attacking, minions, and while pumping out damage. Definitely, in my opinion, one of the best characters in the game. Next up, we're gonna go to Black Panther. First, I'll take a moment, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, where he was a great actor and really personified Black Panther. Now, for Black Panther, I'm giving Black Panther a B. Black Panther is really good. He has tons of different things he can do, and he kind of plays similar to Iron Man, where you gotta take some of the pieces for the Black Panther suit, play them out, and then you essentially, instead of just using them like you would as Iron Man, you have to play Wakanda Forever to actually get the cards to work. Now, this is good and bad at the same time. Because it's good, and what makes him really strong is the fact that he has ways to deal with thwarting. He can do damage depending on what order you play. You activate the suit pieces, they can do more damage, they can do more, remove more threat, heal more. So he has a very different options he can do. Also combined with the fact he does have good cards like Golden City, the Vibranium, so he basically has like a few extra double resource cards in his kit as well, so he has the money. That's why you probably see Black Panther a lot with leadership, because he can kind of pay more for those more expensive allies. The issue I have with Black Panther is you rely basically on Wakanda Forever, and if you don't draw your Wakanda Forever cards when you need them to, your suit's basically dead, and you don't really have much else going for you in terms of a Black Panther card set. It's all pretty much pumped into the suit, and without it, you just are playing a regular hero at that point. And that's kind of why I feel like he's good, but that one big caveat kind of puts him where I don't think he's just enough in A tier. Speaking of A tier, we'll wrap around with the last hero in the core set, Captain Marvel, and she's definitely in A tier. Some may even say S tier. And even when I made this list, was thinking a bit of putting her in at an S tier for her skills. The trick with Captain Marvel is that Captain Marvel is really good at drawing cards. She can draw cards in her alter ego form. She can draw cards in her hero form with her rechannel. She has Alpha Flight Station. She's got a very powerful card in Energy Channel, where she can kind of witness this damage and deal it when she needs to. She's got Energy Absorption. It's a 3 resource card, which has all these different tools. And once you build Captain Marvel, she can kind of just pump out so many cards. You got so many options you can work with her. Spider-Woman, the ally, is a decent ally. It's not the greatest ally out there, but still okay. And in my opinion, the fact that she can do so much because she can draw so many cards makes her really good. The only reason why I don't put her as an S tier is I feel like her playstyle is really kind of lackluster in my opinion. The fact that she essentially is, when you kind of draw these cards, play Energy Channel, pump the Energy Channel as much as you can, get it to max, and then you just do 10 damage bursts each time with it, is one thing. And that's really all she can do with her cards. Other than that, she kind of doesn't have anything else she can do with those cards specifically. So she's really good. She can handle so many different things, but I feel like she does, in my opinion, doesn't have that one thing that really pushes her over the top besides her card drawing mechanics. So with the core set out of the way, let's go into Cycle 1 and start talking about how the Cycle 1 heroes add to this list. We're going to start off with Captain America, the other captain, another powerful, absolutely iconic character, Mr. Avenger himself. And for Captain America, he's going to join his fellow captain, in my opinion, in the A tier. And he also was a viable contender for an S tier. Captain America has a really good set overall. He can handle with shield toss. His heroic strike is another good card that does 6 damage and the stun, which is, some may say, even more useful than some damage. Super soldier serums, and the fact that he can do he can kind of attack twice with his you can do this all day, the ally discount. Captain America can really do it all, and you can really play Captain America in any aspect that you want. He can be leadership, he can be anything really, and he can make it work. He's just that good for character. Similar to Captain Marvel, I feel like that they both are just missing that one, in my opinion, that one thing that makes them broken to where it puts him in an S tier. Like, the difference between, in my opinion, between Captain America and Iron Man is Iron Man, once you build them, you literally just go down and just burn the boss down. Captain America just can do everything because he plays really good, but he never really gets to that point of just, I'm just gonna heroic strike you to death nonstop. He does a bunch of different things, but he doesn't have that, like, I've now broken the game where you can't stop me, basically. In my opinion. So, the other next character that came out in Cycle 1 is Miss Marvel, Miss Kamala Khan. And for Kamala, I am going to have to put her at a C. Her kit is really good and it's very unique with all the cards she has with Bruno, with Nadia, and all other cards she has in her set. The issue is that she kind of requires the cards to come out in a specific way. You need Shrink and you need Embiggen to come out so you can play them, to make your thwarting cards, your attack cards stronger. She has Morphogenesis to kind of give her the ability to get those cards back so she can do damage, but the fact that she's kind of really hindered on getting the cards out in the right way, in my opinion, kind of puts her down a bit. And outside of that, her playstyle isn't, again, it's not that impressive. It doesn't dominate and control the battlefield like a Black Panther or like a Spider-Man, any of the other higher tier heroes can do. She doesn't have some massive way to deal with minions or to deal with thwart that much. Next up we have Thor, Mr. God of Thunder himself, and he gets the distinct honor for this list of being our first F-ranked hero, which is disappointing because it's Thor, right? It's like, guys, he's awesome. Like, you know, if you watch Thor Ragnarok, you see how badass he was. And the issue with Thor is a few things. One, remember how I talked about in She-Hulk that you had 6 cards in your starting hand for as a hero? Thor has 5 in his starting hand, 4 in hero, and that's because he can kind of pull Mjolnir whenever he wants from into his hand. But the issue with that is you kind of need Mjolnir to be effective. He has a 2 attack, 3 attack with Mjolnir, which kind of is a big deal. And Thor is really based upon minions. His hero ability draws him cards if he gets engaged with a minion. So you want to kind of be in hero form to deal with those minions. And that just gets him on par. You got to play Asgard to get his hand size to equal any of the above heroes, 6 and 5 respectively. But Asgard is a 3-cost card, and that's most of your hand in hero form, basically. His other cards are just as too expensive in my opinion. Lady Sif is really good, but for what she does, too expensive. Hammer Throw, 3 for 8, so it's similar to Swinging Web Kick. Comes with Overkill, so you can smash it through a minion to damage the boss, but you lose the hammer in the process. The hammer goes back to your hand. The hammer isn't free, so that hurts you. Lightning Strike, again, decent card, but if it takes some wonders to play it, and then you gotta spend lightning resources on top of that to really do the damage, and you gotta think if you burn 4 lightning resources, that could be 4 cards or 2 cards plus 2 God of Thunder cards to generate it, to kind of what else could you be doing that could make up that amount of damage? So While Thor himself is really good at dealing with minions, and his pack gave us some good cards to deal with minions, he kind of is just playing to be as good as the other heroes. And that puts him at a disadvantage greatly, in my opinion. Next up, we have Black Widow. Now, Black Widow will be going in the B tier. And this is because she is a very unique playstyle. She brought us the preparation cards, a lot of cards that activate based on certain triggers. And the way you play Black Widow is basically you kind of flip to Natasha, or you stay in Natasha. You play a bunch of your preparation cards, get everything set up for the mission, so to speak. Flip over to Black Widow, and then all these different things can trigger and go off. And every time they go off, you do damage, and you can just handle all sorts of situations. And it's really cool, and it was a lot of fun when she came out, this kind of new playstyle. The issue I have with her is I feel like you spend too much of the time kind of resetting yourself every time. So what happens is you start out, you're building up all these preparations, you flip, you unload all the preparations, kind of do everything you want, and now you're at a point where you don't have anything, and you kind of have to flip back to Natasha, not because you need to rest really, just because you're better at playing some cards in your alter ego form to actually build those preparations. Some of her cards are also slightly not as popular. Dance of Death is good, but it's a bit costly for what it can do. Finsuit is pretty okay. She does have, I think, Stealth Strike, or I forget what the move is that kind of does the damage and removes Thor and stuff. But it's kind of, if you're playing Justice, there's better options for that anyway. So she's okay, but she kind of doesn't have a steady enough playstyle to really put her in these higher tiers of being able to handle the game on her own. Next we have Doctor Strange, the Master of Time himself. And Doctor Strange is an S tier and potentially S plus tier, however you want to look at it. Doctor Strange is ridiculously broken beyond anything. I think it wasn't until Doctor Strange people decided to make decks of just Doctor Strange cards and 25 neutrals, because they're like, it doesn't matter what those 25 cards are, as long as I can play my Doctor Strange cards over and over, then I can win. And this is mostly due to his invocation deck, which is just broken. Crimson Bands are Sidorak, 2 resource for 7 damage and a stun. Really powerful. On top of that, if you play Master of the Mystical Arts, you can essentially copy the Crimson Bands, but don't play it. So you can do it twice in one turn, or one time this turn, and the next turn actually play it. Winds of Watum, 0 resource to draw 3 cards. Vapors, I think, to kind of there's one that removes, essentially kind of gives 3 characters tough status of your choice. Another one that can kind of remove thwart and confuse the villain, and other one that just essentially can change different statuses. You can change a stun to a tough, or a tough to a stun, and you can change all this combined with the amount of resources he can generate. Eye of Agamotto, the Cloak of Levitation, Sorcerer Supreme, even though it's not technically a Doctor Strange card, it basically is at this point until we get Scarlet Witch. He can just dominate. Doctor Strange's only issue, in my opinion, is he doesn't have much for area control. He doesn't have many things that can deal with minions. Like even his blast effect is, just 5 plus something. He doesn't have much to deal with the smaller, like if he gets swarmed. So you either want to build cards to kind of help him with that, or protect him, or have another player kind of help with that. But basically, if he can cast his spells off, he can just completely run through a game, no matter who it is. Broken. The last hero of Cycle 1 is the Hulk. And the Hulk joins his best friend from work, Thor, the bottom of this list as an F tier character. And I don't know what to say about this. Hulk, sadly, is really bad. Like, you could give Thor like an F plus. I would give Hulk maybe like an F minus, if that was the thing. The idea of Hulk was really cool. People were hyped for it. But then you got the cards and you just realized it just doesn't work. Hulk has 0 thwart, not dash, 0, so he technically can't thwart. His only card that really allows him to is suboptimal leap. The main part is similar to Thor, hand size 5 in Alter, 4 in Hulk. He can cycle his cards in Bruce Banner form, so that's why they kind of give you that less hand size, so you basically can draw a card and pick which one you want. Hulk, 4 cards, but he can't carry over any cards from his previous turn. You have to get rid of all your cards every turn. The biggest card is Hulk Smash. It's a 3 resource card plus 10 to your attack. If you paid for it with only strength resources, you essentially get overkill. So the whole point of this is you get this big 13 damage attack with overkill that just looks really awesome to do, basically. Now, the problem is 3 resource card. Hulk's hand is 4 cards normally if you start in Hulk, which means that your whole turn is playing Hulk Smash, unless you have ways to generate. But he doesn't have enough resources to play some of the more expensive cards. Likewise, if he's stunned, if the villain has tough, that completely shuts him down. If you don't have the strength resources, remember, it doesn't get overkill unless you actually play with all strength icons. And while the Hulk cards have strength icons, you better hope the rest of your deck has a good chunk as well. So Hulk Smash is a bit of a struggle. The rest of his cards aren't that great. I mean, yeah, you can, with all the cards, you can make him like a 22 health, retaliate 1 monster, so he can take hits. Even Protection Hulk can kind of work pretty well. But it's just, you're pretty much, again, kind of like Thor. You're just pedaling your wheels a bit, trying to get to the, like, to play as good as these other characters. And it's sad, because it's Hulk. Like, everybody loves Hulk, but it just doesn't work. The next one on our list are the two heroes that come in our first campaign, Rise of the Red Skull. Now for this we get Hawkeye and Spider-Woman. For Hawkeye, I'm putting Hawkeye at a B. Hawkeye himself has very interesting arrow cards, and pretty much I think almost all the cards in his signature pool are arrows. That can do damage, that can remove threat, that can do AoE damage, and he's a decently high attack. But I feel like because you have to essentially kind of like exhaust Hawkeye, it puts you in a weird position, because I think the way it works is when you play Hawkeye, you think you have 2 attack. But if you play the bow, you have 3 attack. Say you have combat training and you have 4 attack. At that point, it's almost better to just punch somebody than to actually shoot an arrow, because you're swinging for 4 for free. And that's pretty. It gets to the point where that's 4 attack, which puts him at like Hulk level of damage, really, in terms of a basic attack power. And he has some good arrows like the Vibranium arrow and Sonic arrow, but the fact that it's just arrows, really, again, it's a bit of a lackluster play style, and I just, combined with his 9 health, I just don't see him being that versatile in any situation. He has arrows for it, but again, in my opinion, just not as good as this block we have up here. Speaking of this block, Spider-Woman joins the crew of the A tier. And this is for 2 reasons mainly. 1, pheromones. That's it. Drop the mic. Pheromones. This card is similar to how we said Spider-Man has at mate, which is broken. Pheromones is pretty broken. 2 resource to stun and confuse the villain. It's in your signature pool, and it just works. It's unstoppable. You should probably always play it when you draw it. It's just that good. And the way Spider-Woman works, for those that aren't aware, Spider-Woman has this dual aspect to her deck. You can play 2 different aspects in her deck, and pretty much the more different aspects you play, the stronger she becomes. So say you're playing Aggression and Justice, if you play an Aggression card, she gets +1 to all her stats. You play a Justice card, she gets +1 to all her stats. Pheromones is considered a leadership card, but it's still part of her pool. +1. Combined with her normal stats, now she's a 4/4/4 that can do whatever she wants. And there's cards that can ready her as well. But between pheromones, between the other card that gives her tough, it's just, she's a really solid character. I mean, I can't say anything. I mean, like I said, it's just pheromones. Pheromones combined with the dual aspect, so she can kind of combo cards that normally you would have to have like 2 different players to really do the combo. Here she has all the cards for the combo herself. Doesn't need anybody else. So in my opinion, that's what makes her really powerful. With that, we'll go on to cycle 2 of our cards, and this will brings us to Ant-Man. I'm going to put Ant-Man as an A. And Ant-Man is really powerful. The cards in his kit are really good. Army of Ants, Hive Mind lets him ping a lot of damage off while removing Thor. His Giant Stomp when he's in giant form does 8 damage to the villain, but also an AoE to the minions like engage with you, so you have that bit of a clear, and he's really keen in flipping between all his different forms. Again, for those unaware, the way it works is Ant-Man has Scott Lang, and he has Tiny Ant-Man, but he also has Giant Ant-Man, where the card actually unfolds. It's really cool. But in my opinion, Ant-Man is the way he can pull off all these different cards, and the way he kind of like hop back and forth. You know, you have the risk gauntlets that can stun or confuse an enemy just by paying resources. His helmet, the pin particles. He can just really flop into all these different situations and handle them all relatively well. On the other hand, Wasp, his partner in crime, if you will, I put it at a B, and that is because she's a little bit more focused in my opinion, but I've played a few games with her since her release, and I haven't really seen much. I still feel Ant-Man plays better. Wasp just feels like she's good. She's a solid character. She has really strong cards. Wasp's thing is really powerful. But I played games and like literally she doesn't really have much to build on. Like she has like the Wasp helmet of biosynthetic wings, which is okay. Red Room training is pretty good for her. But I think she's okay. Like she didn't really blow me away like how Ant-Man did, in my opinion. I feel like Ant-Man's going back and forth, doing everything is just a lot more engaging and a lot better play style that can handle multiple things compared to what Wasp can handle. She's a lot more focused on taking out specific targets. Lastly, the last hero to be released, Quicksilver. Now Quicksilver, I will note, just for this one specifically, Quicksilver, I am putting him at an S tier for now. What I mean by this is he could go down to an A tier eventually, maybe, but for right now, he's an S tier. He is broken with the rest of them up here. And it's basically because the way you play Quicksilver is draw, friction resistance, play, friction resistance, and then just go to town. So the way this works is, this is the combo. I'm just telling you guys the combo right here. He has 1/1/1 on all his stats. His ability, it says whenever he uses his normal power, you can ready him again. He has a card in his pool for each stat to give to boost it up. So make it a 2/2/2. Okay. Then say you're playing with either an aggression or justice player. You have either combat training or heroic intuition. So now your stats are 3. You got maximum velocity, gives you a +2 to all your stats till the end of the turn. 5. Then say you have your adrenaline rush or civic duty to neutral that came with this pack, that can give you a +1 to a stat for the end of the turn. 6, right? Now with that 6, you have a card in the deck. You have 3 of them, I believe, 3 or 4, of always be running. It's a 1-cost card that says ready Quicksilver. So this is how it works. Say you pull out that big combo, get everything set up. Now you have 6 attack, let's just say. You attack, 6 damage. Ready. Attack, 6 more damage. You're at 12. Let's say you use friction resistance to... You use friction resistance to pay for always be running. It readies Quicksilver. Friction resistance readies because you ready Quicksilver. Okay. Attack again. another 6 damage. Say you have another always be running in your hand. Well, friction resistance, as you may have seen, whenever you ready Quicksilver, it readies itself. So it essentially pays for your always be running to always work. So every always be running you draw is another 6 damage in this case. So say you do have another one, 6 more damage. That's 24 damage he can do. Say you're doing thwarting. That's 24 thwart that you can do. And what makes it even more crazy is it's not one big like 10, 20 thwart. It's bunches of 6s or 5s or whatever. So you can easily clear out 2, 3 schemes off the board by yourself. You can take on tough minions like the Arachnorots on your own. You could pump 20 damage into the villain by yourself. And it basically you just go boom, 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 boom. You know, you just pump all this damage out. And then all you have to do it again is draw those cards. Draw the always be running cards and just keep funneling them straight in. And it's unstoppable. It's really crazy. It's a lot of fun. I was honestly surprised at it. Now, it's a bit of a simple playstyle, but it's really powerful. As it stands, it is a really powerful set. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but in my opinion, I think it's really good. So there you have it, guys. This is my tier list as of this point. Scarlet Witch is coming soon, next month, and I will add her to this list to see how she compares to it. But outside of that, what do you guys think about this tier list? Do you guys have any major arguments, major ones that you think don't match up with what you guys' playstyle is? Let me know in the YouTube comments, and I'll be curious to see what you guys think. I'll be bringing you guys some more Marvel Champions content to the channel as well, so be sure to check that out. And thank you guys for watching.